Hey guys, welcome to another wet, dreary day in North Devon. Always seems to be wet and dreary in North Devon at the minute. Just out on the BMW 310 GS, which some of you might not know that I've had, but I've had it for a couple of years, and it was running on the A2 fleet for people to ride back to back. Those days I've not been doing much in, I didn't do many of those in 2023, so the bike's barely turned a wheel this year. I just did use it one weekend to go up to Cumbria and back on, so a long motorway stint, but in 2022 it went round Ireland, and then it's been used on day rides. Previously I had a Euro 4 bike. You can tell the difference between a Euro 4 and a Euro 5 bike by the colour of the engine. So the Euro 4 is silver, the Euro 5 is black. Other changes was a LED headlamp on the Euro 5. They deleted the ABS switch that was, you used to be able to switch the ABS off on the rear on the Euro 4 bikes, and there was an electric throttle on this one. The Euro 4 was a cable, this is ride-by-wire. The difference being that it's actually cured that pull-off, easy stalling nature of the Euro 4 bike. I found when I ran the fleet with the Euro 4 bike, a lot of people struggled to get it off the line initially, just because it stalled a lot, I suppose, a light flyweight mass and not a lot of torque, so it was quite difficult, or it took a bit of getting used to get it off the line. The Euro 5 made that much easier. Just to point out, I'm halfway through fitting the Rally Raid kits. I've got a stage 2 kit to fit. Somebody offered it me off their bike for a good price, so a price I couldn't really refuse. So I've got the tubeless spoked wheels, I've got the back on, the front one's still got to go on. I've got the rear shock, the tractive rear shock, the stage 2, which gives it a bit more ground clearance and obviously a lot more adjustability. I think the biggest flaw with the GS310 is the suspension. Not for your average rider at an average pace, the stock suspension's fine. It's just when you start to push on a bit or carry more luggage or want to travel more distances over rougher terrain, you just find it had quite soft suspension. So the biggest change you can do to a 310 to improve it is the suspension. Obviously the spoke wheels make it look nice and tarty, but the suspension is where I would start if you've got a 310 and you're wanting to improve the way it rides. Don't bother with exhaust and all that other stuff. You will get more benefits in pace, speed and enjoyment by improving the suspension. Certainly a rear shock, and the rear shock is so easy to do on it, very easy to access. The front fork is harder to do because it's a sealed unit, so I think it takes a little bit more technique and a few more YouTube manuals to get right, so I will do that. And then I've got the Renthal fat bar conversion and the top clamp to go on, so by the time it's finished it'll look quite nice. I mean, in a way I'm probably more excited about getting this bike completed than I am of riding the new Himalayan or the new Triumph 400X, which probably says something about the endearing nature of the 310 GS. It was a bike that was, I think, quickly forgotten by this end of the market, for the simple fact that bikes with bigger headline figures came out soon after it. So the KTM 390 Adventure came out, which had more power and a bit more showroom appeal, and then the Himalayan came out before the 390, and the Himalayan, I think, for a lot of people, out GS'd the GS in that it could do on-road, off-road work at a lower price, in many ways better than the BMW. So Royal Enfield had out GS BMW, and I think it left the 310 as a bit of a showroom folly, really. I don't think BMW dealers were totally enamoured about selling it, I suppose for the simple fact that the margin probably wasn't that high on it, so they'd rather upsell you to an F800 or an 850 or a 1200. And I think people saw it as a girl's bike, which I think is such a derogatory term, not only to girls but also to bikes that are called girls' bikes, because it's to suggest that they're not somehow proper or or insubstantial. And I think that was certainly the case when I had MCN come down to Devon and we tested the 310 against the 390 against the CRF 300 Rally and the Himalayan. I think the end conclusion was sort of the dismissal of this end of the market, and the suggestion that you needed to go up a gear to a Tenere 700 or Tiger 900 to get a proper adventure bike, whereas I've always thought the opposite, that you need to come down to this end of the market to get a proper adventure bike. Because okay, the 310 GS is not fast, it's not overly sophisticated, it's not got a lot of technology on it, but you can buy it cheap and go a long way on it, and it will do the job reliably. And once you get to learn what it's good at and what it's not so good at, it's a very competent, enjoyable machine. It's not fast, it's not got great suspension as standard, it's not got a lot of curb appeal, but at the end of a long day there's no better place to be than on a 310 GS, because it's just a relaxing, easygoing ride, a very forgiving ride, and also spirited. It has got a turn of pace, it's high revving, it's a single cylinder 313cc engine putting out I think 34 brake horsepower. Not a lot of torque, a bit less than the Himalayan, but it redlines to 10,000 RPM, so it does need a bit of a caning. There we go. And I would say that's got a swift enough turn of pace, certainly for back road riding, and equally for A road riding. When I rode it up to Cumbria on the motorway and back down in, I think it was April, May time, I was pleasantly surprised at the speeds that it would sit at on the motorway. It would sit at 75, 80, 85 and push onto all day long, and economy on these bikes is good. I certainly noticed a difference between touring on a bike with this size engine than say the Motor Marini 650 X Cape that I've got. You know, that's not an overly thirsty bike, but that's getting maybe 55, 60, 65 mpg. Whereas the Vogue and things like this are getting 90 mpg, which translates into a big difference at the pump as to how often you have to refill and how much it costs you. So I think together with the reduced purchase price and the reduced service price, I think there's just an endless amount of value in this end of the market. And it's only getting more exciting, isn't it? We've got the CF Moto 450 coming. That promises to be a cheap bike, or relatively affordable. We've got the new Himalayan, which is going to add more power over this, and obviously it's got the 21-inch front wheel, whereas this has got a 19, so naturally it's probably going to be a little bit better off-road. I think what the 310 has got in its favour is that it feels quite light. It feels a nice, light, movable machine. I think it's about, you know, on paper 25 kilos lighter than a Himalayan, but it feels quite a significant chunk lighter when you're moving it around off the stand and pushing it and pulling it into the garage. So for somebody who's a bit shorter, maybe a bit more frail or older, it could certainly be an easier bike for the general moving about of a motorcycle. I think the only downside that impedes its accessibility is that rear rack, which sits quite tall and wide, which means that some people I know have struggled to get cock a leg over. You can take that rear rack off, and it is a bit of a whopper of a rear rack. Obviously you lose practicality, but you get on and off it a bit easier. So yeah, a revvy little engine. Who would it suit? I think it would suit the budget conscious adventurer quite nicely, really. There's some great deals second hand on the 310 GS's. You know, they're not a lot of money second hand. They've not gone up in price. Brand new, like the KTM now with the spoke wheels is £7,000, and I just think, who on earth or why on earth would you spend £7,000 on a KTM 390? It makes no sense. It's too much money for that bike. Whereas this has remained at about 5.8, gone up 300 quid in 6 years, so I don't think that's too bad at all. Same price as a brand new Himalayan. Is it going to challenge? Is it going to be a serious contender even at that price? Probably not. But on the second-hand market, there's some, yeah, absolutely great deals. And what I would suggest is, rather than buying a brand new bike, I'd look for something that's had its running in service. I'd buy that for £1,000–1,500 off a list, and I'd buy some suspension improvements straight away, and then that would transform it into a really nice, capable machine. Because I think that's what sums up the 310. It's a really nice, capable machine, which is manageable, reliable. It's actually pretty tough. When I've done some green laning on the Euro 4 bike in the past, it's taken some big wallops, some big drops, and apart from bending a set of handlebars, it's It stood up to it incredibly well. I've got to be honest, it's just nice being out on a motorcycle. I don't tend to ride as much in the winter, and I think when motorcycling or any passion becomes your hobby, or your job, sorry, you tend not to do it for pleasure. So I don't tend to get out in winter much, unless I'm working, guiding. So it's really nice just to get a bike and go for a ride and feel that sort of relaxation that you get from it. I don't know about you, but I get a lot of tension. I'm a tense person, so the more I sit still, the more tense I get. So getting on a bike with no pressure to be anywhere or do anything is really relaxing. And if anything, it's good. I find it's good for a bad bike rather than, well, certainly in my case, I'm bad for it. But we'll see. I'm going to take us on a little bit of a choppy old trail in a second, which will probably be a stupid idea, given I've got the standard Tourance tyres on the front. I have got an Anarchy Wild on the back. Scrap that, it's not an Anarchy Wild, it's an Anlas Capra X, which is a Turkish equivalent to a Anarchy Wild, very similar profile. Not a bad tyre. I find they're a bit too cumbersome and a bit lacking in feel for the bigger adventure bikes. I have had one on the Marini, and it really made it feel a bit doughy, a bit stiff on the road, but on these lighter bikes it doesn't seem to affect it on the road quite so much, and obviously gives it a bit more off-road traction. So we're going to do a bit of off-roading, see if we can find our way into town before Marks and Spencer's closes, and we can buy some presents for people. I'm a terrible shopper. Everything's a last minute. Is it a man thing? I think it must be. Right. Okay. What I've always liked about the 310 straight out of the crate without doing anything to it is that it's got a very nice standing position. It's got a nice slim seat, so you get your knees in. The bars are nice and tall and wide, so you've got a nice sort of adventure bike styled standing stance. Compare that to the 390 KTM, which, if you ride them as standard, is a really difficult, awkward thing to get comfortable on. Certainly on a trail like this where you're just bimbling along, you're always feeling like you need to sit down just because the position is so off on that KTM. You can remedy it a little bit, but you can't cure it completely. So for me, the 310 is a better bike for off-roading straight out the crate, for the simple fact is you can get, oh, that's deeper than I thought. For the simple fact is you can get comfortable on it. Not only comfortable, but controlled, and I think the standing position of the 310 gives you a lot of control of the bike. And if you've got control of the bike, you're halfway there to staying upright. Now this front wheel, as I say, it's just always wanting to wash. So I could put a knobbly on this and it would help a little bit, but you're never going to get over the fact that it's going to want to find sludge, and on that sludge it's going to want to slide. Where a bike like this does shine is in the drier conditions, such as America or Australia, where it's harder pack or drier. Even in Wales, to be fair, the terrain of Wales is drier, better draining, less mushy. But somewhere like Devon, it can really be a little bit precarious on a broad tyre like this. It's a shame, you know. It would only need a slightly narrower rim. Maybe people do, though. There is a company out there that does it, but and I think you can go down to 100 on the stock rim, so maybe I'll try that when I put some new tyres on it. It's always a compromise with tyres, though. You know, you could put a proper aggressive attractionator or something like that on this bike, but I've got a feeling that would really blunt its ride, its finesse on the road, and then you've compromised it on road, and you know, it's where are you going to spend most of your riding? I would imagine most of it's going to be on the road. Right, we've got a choppy little bit coming up. I'm not sure if I'll get up here in one piece. It's probably not the best place to bring it, but we'll give it a go. Let's just have a quick look at the bike. I think it's a really handsome bike, to be honest, with that red frame. I think they brought some nice colours to the fore. It's a shame that it's taken the aftermarket to bring the spoke wheels to it, because it makes no difference the way it rides putting the spoke wheels on. Some will argue, oh, for off-road you should have spoke wheels because they'll take more of an impact, but let's be honest, we're not going in the Dakar on this bike, and I've never cracked a rim on this or the 390 Adventure, and I've done some pretty choppy terrain on it, so I think you'd have to be very, very unlucky to damage a cast rim. And the benefit of a cast rim is that it's tubeless, so you can plug it easy. The downside of a typical tube tyre like on the Vosges or the CRF or the Himalayan is that it's got a tube in it, which if you get a puncture is an absolute swine to fix, which is why the Rally Raid wheels are tubeless, so they've not got a tube in either, so it's kind of best of both worlds. But do they make any difference the way the bike rides? No. Do they make a difference the way it looks? Yes. And it makes, that's, I think looks are a big part of desirability, aren't they? It's not heavy, and I've never run one with crash bars, actual crash protection here. The Euro 4 bike I had, there's a trail around here called Snapper Lane, and it's quite precarious in places, and I was going up it on the Euro 4 bike, and there was a big washout through the middle of the lane, and I was up high, and I stalled it, and it came down, and I thought, God, it's going to have destroyed the bike, and I picked it up, and I think it had broke one of the stock handguards. I was gobsmacked. So the bike is actually very versatile and robust. Rally Raid have got a demo bike. They've had it for about 3 years, giving it to anybody to thrash and ride. And I think other than head bearings, it's not had a lot done to it. So yeah, the 310 is a well-proven, reliable machine. If anybody's unsure, it's Indian built, but I don't think you wouldn't certainly hold that against it. But yeah, look at that. It's a handsome bike, isn't it? Handsome bike. Right, let's see if we can get it up here, shall we? I've got a feeling it's going to end up in disaster. Stupid idiot. I should have just gone straight to sharps. Alright, let's go first gear. My glasses are steamed up. Alright, let's have a look at this lane. It's covered in leaves. Thankfully my vision's regained its clarity. Alright, where are we going to go? We're not going to get that way. Come on. Oh, just caught me. I'll tell you what, I was doing alright then. Okay, so I caught my handguard in the bank, and it's just caught me off. But this is actually a tricky lane. It won't show it on camera, but I'll argue blue in the face. It's actually quite a tricky lane because it's got a wet gully. So what you need on a trail, for a bike to ride on the trail, is good slow speed, adjustability, and precision, and chuggability, I guess. And I think that's why I'd always advise people to get the Euro 5 bike over the 4, because at times like that then the bike is far easier to ride and keep going than the 4 bike. The 4 bike would have been very willing to stall, and it would have stalled, whereas this, they've obviously artificially raised the revs at low speed to mean it doesn't stall on you, which makes it far more rideable in these conditions. So not sure what I'm going to do now. Might go backwards. I'll figure it out. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put my camera down, see if we can't get the 310 in action. If we can get the stand down, that is. Okay. What are we going to do here? I ain't going to get up that, am I? Let's try and get up. Let's try again. Go on. Oh, stalled it. So the problem is that centre line. Let's actually go for that centre line, see if we got it. We've got a knobbly tyre on the back. Beauty again. Low C type, relatively low. Easy to get them feet down. Gives me a lot of confidence. Go on, go on. Whetstone? Nope. Okay. We are beached. Beached. Again, I've got a manageable bike, I can roll it back. So I've got it in gear and I'm rolling it back with the clutch in. So when I want it to stop, I just let that clutch out. It gives me far better control of the bike, because if I pull the brake when I'm rolling backwards, the front wheel will just lock, or the wheel will lock, and the bike will keep sliding. So if you always come back with the clutch in, with it in gear, pull the clutch in to roll, let the clutch out to stop it from rolling. It's always the best way. There's no shame in giving up, coming back to the bottom, having another look at it. I don't know if you can see it. So what I've got to do, I've got to get over to the left. Let's try and stay on that left bank. What it takes, what life takes, isn't it? It's a metaphor for life, this lane. It takes commitment. Ahead of you is life. Straight down the middle is pain. And if you're uncertain, you'll go straight in through that pain. You'll keep on going and you'll probably not get out of it. But if you look ahead, pick your line, pick your trajectory and go for it with conviction, there's a way up through there. It's just knowing which line, knowing how fast to hit it, and knowing when to keep going and when to pause and when to stop. That's the trick, isn't it, of life? That lane there is life. I spend a lot of time, I don't know about anybody else, I spend a lot of time in the middle. It's hard to get out of it, isn't it? Hard to get out. I think life's as tricky as this lane sometimes. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. I'll tell you what we're going to do. With my glasses off, I can barely see. We're going to give it another go. Come on, 310 GS. Come on, I've got you. Off the Come on, come on. Ah, yes. Go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on. Yes, 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 yes. Go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on. I can't get it. Stored it. We've stored it. Oh. Go on. Get in that middle rut. Go on, go on, go on. Just feathering that throttle, paddling with them feet, soft throttle. Try not to let that back end spin. Gonna get it up. Come on, come on. Just need to get on the pegs. I'm on the pegs. And we're at the top. We are at the top. Now I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to say that this bike is the best bike for that lane, but it's got tenacity. It's got tenacity. It's got good grip with the handlash as well. Kept digging that, it kept pushing. I need a better tyre on the front just to give me, well, I need a better strap at the back as well. I need a better tyre at the front just to give it a bit more purchase. But as I say, you're never going to do much about that broad tyre. You can see it's fat tyre. Whoa on the mud, whoa on the mud. Skinnier tyre would help a lot, but you can't knock this bike, you know. I think BMWs themselves knock this bike. They've certainly never invested in its development, and I would imagine it'll be silently, quietly dropped one day and we'll never see it again. But they built a good bike there. The rally race suspension, or any suspension upgrade for that matter, makes a big difference. If you've got one of these bikes and you're getting a bit fed up with it, thinking about moving on to something bigger or whatever, or changing it, change the suspension first, because that will transform the bike. It will make it the bike it was always meant to be. The bean counters at BMW obviously thought they could take the springs out the biro pen, stick them on the front forks and sell it cheap, or sell it for more profit. Same with the rear shock. But improve that shock, improve those springs, and then you've got a proper bike. Would it benefit from being plugged out to a 400cc? Well, it'd be a monster if it were 400cc single with decent suspension. Would anybody buy it? I don't know. BMW have been bitten in the past with bikes like the G450X and the 650Xs and things like that, which never sold. So I think they played it safe with this. mass production, cheap in India, away we go. So I think they know what they're talking about, but I think us weirdos of the adventure market can just see potential in this bike. Anyway, right, off to do some shopping. Let's go to Marks and Spencer's, buy some lingerie, and I'll get something for my wife as well. Alright, catch you later, bye.